There we go.
There we are. Okay, welcome to the first ever Node.js bot meeting. So today we are myself, Hans Christian, and we have Jeremiah, Johan, and William. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
Okay, today on the agenda we have add the required Node.js Foundation documents. It's pull request 59 in the GitHub bot repository. Then there is open discussion about goals and IDs and scope. And then we have members, invite some more, question mark. And then there is other, if there are other things to discuss. Okay. So let's just kick off with the first agenda item, add the required Node.js Foundation documents. There is no, this one didn't have the discussion. Was the discussion only in the RSC or the?
Well, the majority of that issue was about who is going to own the bot.
Yeah.
Is where it went to.
Yeah.
When I made that PR, I had accidentally just copied some stuff in there and then changed it to TSC, which is where I think it should be for now.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we include that?
The pull request had a bit more of a discussion, and just adding a bit of history, we suggested to talk about it in the build group as well, but it was thrown back into this arena, so this is the proper way and place to discuss it.
Yeah. Yeah, my take on is that discussion should happen along with the documents.
And a little bit more background, that PR, the adding the required documents, right at the same time that the bot, Philip had moved the bot into the foundation's repo. The TSC had said, well, we want to process where someone that wants to bring a code base in needs to do these added documents or add these documents, and then we want to approve them, and then it can be pulled in. It just happened at the exact same time. Philip didn't know about it, so I said, listen, I promise I'll get him in there. This won't be another repo that has no documentation. And so that's where that PR originated.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, is there anything like practical we need to discuss in terms of just landing the document? I guess we could just feedback on it, and like if we want to add our objective and stuff like that, we should do that. I guess the only... Sorry?
Did we come to a conclusion on who owns it? Are we just doing that under the TSC for now?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, unless we find a strong reason to move it somewhere, which I at least don't see, I'm happy to roll with that. I guess the only reason that it was brought up in relations with the build group was probably just an overlap of effort, but additionally, you know, that at least from if you look at the other groups, the TSC might require a bit of substance in terms of, you know, people, activity, and you know, contribution, if they officially want to bless a group. So I guess that was the second rationale behind, you know, why it could land under the build group. But just closing that door, I'm happy to just keep achieving to get this closer to the TSC. And then I guess additionally, you know, the ownership isn't, I don't think that's a roadblock in any way. Like if our goal is to make it you know, a clear distinction, let's make it a clear distinction, make it have its own life, and the second we get it approved, that's all good. But until then, let's just keep working.
Because it has to be approved by the TSC if we want to go that direction.
Yes, as I understand it, that's the way.
The only other thing is I have a comment in it that asks if we should be using Apache 2.0 as the base license for it instead of MIT. Now, I think we'd need, I mean, we'll have to have whoever's contributed to it sign off on the license pretty much. And the reason behind that is a lot of discussions that we've had on the TSC regarding copyright and patent stuff, and Apache 2.0 is just easier for that. So it might be best for us to go with that. I can loop in Michael, who's the most in tune to that conversation.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think he knows. Yeah, I know I've talked to him about that prior. The only thing we should do, I guess, is just if we want actionable items here, is talk to him and then just open an issue where we get the sign up from the 5 people that's contributed, which is pretty much this room and what's his name?
Philip.
Philip?
No, not Philip. What's the guy that works at Joyent? Give me a sec.
Oh yeah, Terrell. No.
Christopher. Sorry.
Christopher.
Yeah. So that would be it.
Yeah, and that should be a separate action item or pull request because we need sign off from the rest of the guys who are not here.
Yeah, and the license I put MIT in there because there was in the package JSON it said MIT, so I was going with what we were all working under for any of the commits we did. But this is an issue that probably should be raised to the TSC. There should be some clarification of what licenses they expect. Anything under their foundation, or maybe not. Maybe they don't have an expectation. They can do that too.
Yeah.
There's, I believe, a limited number of licenses that we currently approve. I think that's perhaps just MIT and Apache. I think originally everything had to be MIT. I'm not sure exactly the guidelines anymore.
Would you like to take point on that one, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I've already sent a comment to Michael, and I'll follow up on it.
Great. Okay, so unless there are some other objections regarding the documents, I don't see a reason why we should not get that merged.
No, I just want to say, hey, it's awesome to get this going, and I think, like for me, this is a very important part of the Node.js infrastructure moving forward. So I'm just super keen to see people rally around it. So great to have you around.
And I think I would like to see some sort of group get together around the bot and collaborate. I'm not sure where that will fall and what's appropriate, but I think this is a good start that we at least have 4 of us on this call, and there is a call. So thanks for setting this up, everyone.
Yeah, I guess I should add. I mean, I'm 0 commits in, so I'm honored to be part of your crew. So. So Hans, do you want to move on, or?
Yeah. Well, unless there are any objections, no. Moving on. Okay, open discussion about goals, IDs, and scope. I know you, William, had some thoughts.
Yeah, and so what is it? A week from now is Node Interactive. Is it that close already? In Europe, and I have an item there for the Collaboration Summit to discuss and drum up some interest. Maybe we'll get more people on another future call. But idea is what can we do with this bot, and expectations. One of the things that I intended from the start when I started my version of the bot was the ultimate bot would be a platform for all of the working groups to contribute scripts. And all working groups are autonomous, right? So they need to have their freedom. And so a bit of what I worry about is some kind of I don't know, nitpicking or something where people that would be approving bot scripts would be giving editorial I don't know, thoughts and directions to a working group, and I would like to avoid that. I want them to have the freedom. However, the bot, was moved into the org because it has elevated permissions for things. So, where do we find that balance of letting people submit scripts that are safe?
Yeah, and adding to that, I've thought of the question. Is this one bot? Is it multiple instances? Is this multiple deploys? I think what you open with in terms of this funnel where all the organizations can contribute like their interests in whatever connectivity they need between GitHub or Jenkins or IRC or website or maybe I think that's an interesting thought that we should try and funnel into what our working group is about and what we want to achieve, and like if we all agree on a few sentences there, I think the reviewing part will be less opinionated because it should allow for all these different entities to contribute, not just about Jenkins or not just about this and that. And then I feel like the security topics would be a resulting discussion problem to solve, and if we can't solve it under one roof, we just split it up in different parts and deployments, I guess.
Yeah, that's something Jeremiah had said from the very beginning. He was thinking there should be a bot with elevated permissions and another bot that not so much, and I have no objections to that. It might be the best route if we can figure out a way to not make it confusing.
Yeah, I mean the optimal standpoint should be someone opening a pull request against our repo with tests, obviously, that that somehow caters their interest, and we should be able to merge it and deploy it for them without them having to care about another project's security. That would really be the penultimate goal, in a way, for me at least. I jotted down a list of things, I mean, I spend a lot of time in the build group, obviously, and this, for me, is kind of a gateway drug to to avoid a lot of the shortcomings of Jenkins. So, like, I have a list of things if you guys want to, like, hear me talking even more for a bit. But I guess what we also could do is just like use issues for this and then talk about different subjects that we see fit. But for me, I guess the distinction is really the security, because to do all the things we need, we would have to touch the CI release machines, which is the heart of our security, and we would have to touch like all access to GitHub to get an event log, full event log of audits and similar. So that's why I've probably been a bit vocal from a build perspective in terms of security and access. And that was a bit open, I guess, but yeah. I mean, we don't have to sit here and listen to me for an hour, so I was just thinking like, perhaps it's easier if I just put it down in issues or something.
I'm not sure if my sort of main goals with it are recorded. They might be. So one of them was to get CI status that works with GitHub commit statuses, and I think that's mostly working now. So that's great. The other thing is, and I have not gone to actually look how to do this yet, because it seems like it'd be significant trouble to do, but have the meetings, especially for the TSC and CTC, but also for working groups, automatically scheduled from calendar or from some collection of calendary stuff at first. Doesn't need to be directly connected to a Google Calendar at first. And then preferably also automatically make meeting notes, which seems to be I think that's like really hard to do on Google Docs, but I haven't had time to dedicate to that yet. But that is one of the things that it's always just a pain to do every week, to set everything up. So
yeah, And adding to that, just like juggling Hangouts and stuff, if we just have it generate the event and links, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's one open issue I've had on the TSC for a very long time is event calendar. So it's my personal agenda for the Node.js Foundation to help with collaboration. So people that come into the GitHub repos get a sense of familiarity with wherever they go. So that's why I'm really big on documenting things and writing things out in the README and letting people kind of get their grounds as they move around. And so having a calendar is pretty major for people understanding when they can participate and be at the live streams. But also there's I see it as a tool for things that are a template. So as Jeremiah said, these meeting things are the same over and over. And although working groups have autonomy, they also, a lot of them don't really care so much. They just want something that works. And so, you give them a tool and then they just use it, and that the output of that tool will look the same across many working groups. And I think that's a huge win.
Yeah, and it also, I think, like the quality of life for the meeting itself, because I at least know from the build group that when I'm in charge that I do it 2 days too late or whatever, which means that people don't get all the invites, which means that someone misses out or whatever. So there's all these things that just benefits from automation.
And of course, there's also the issue of adding people to the GitHub org, which is the elevated permission that the bot needed with GitHub, was to bring them, add them to the org, and put them on a team.
Yeah. I guess I could just add a few notes from my corner and just to get it on the call. So the primary goal I want to achieve with the GitHub bot is improving the quality of life from a developer perspective, working with GitHub. So what we do today is pretty much manual in terms of getting the feedback loop going. But in terms of feedback, I want to go from what we have today to displaying, if we have failed tests, if it's just one, we can show this is the failed test. If we can do an ETA for how long tests will take on our ARM, so people can see okay, it's 20 minutes ago and it's 15 minutes ago. I want to do things like posting feedback about commit message validation, which we're pretty close to doing as well. But I guess all of those things are in a slightly bigger topic because it will change the commit workflow at Node as well slightly. And then I want to look at creating because since this bot will be in between GitHub and Jenkins, it will also have all the information about jobs. And the problem, one big problem we're having with jobs at the moment is that because of how Jenkins works and because of Java, we can't store more than 20 days of job history. So what I would love to see is the bot just having that information stored somewhere, and then have some kind of simple website where we can see all jobs, not just the 20 latest, but also, or 20 days of jobs, but also historic point of view. So just a waterfall view or something simple where you can see all jobs. And then we can link back to that page instead of linking to more than 20 days old. And you look at a CI run and you go to a 404, you instead come to a page where you can see exactly what happened. So I think there's a lot of things in the Jenkins quality of life corner we can do. And then on top of that, sorry, if you have any feedback, feel free.
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, definitely, that stuff sounds amazing.
Yeah. So and there's all kinds of small things in there, I see from a build perspective, but because there's so much information in Jenkins that's super tricky or forces us to wait just by Jenkins being slow from a developer perspective. So like just tightening that gap in any way possible. A second thing that I feel is important for the entire organization is audit logging. So pretty much getting the full event flow from everything that happens at GitHub and just storing it somewhere. So if we have an intrusion or a pub key is lost or whatever happens, we can have a separate archive of what happened in case of GitHub actually being compromised as well. I don't know what to do with it other than storing it for now, but in time we can probably use it for a lot of interesting things. We can use it for statistics. We can create like this page at Node.js.org and improving visualization of the collaboration effort. There's probably all kinds of stuff we can do with it. And then we also have a separate bot that does alerting at the moment for our like CI, and that effort could probably land within the same roof somehow. What it does at the moment is pretty much pings all our slaves or workers in Jenkins and just sees if they're online. If they're not, they just sends an email and writes to IRC. But I can kind of see how more of the infrastructure, all the different scripts we will be running within the bots can benefit from a similar message passing. So it kind of makes sense to get that in there somehow as well. So that's a few of the things I kind of see in the roadmap from my corner.
Yeah, great thoughts, Johan. I'm just thinking about if all these things, these things are great suggestions. I'm not sure if all of them should be in the bot. Are you thinking more of a platform for this, or in one process, one program?
I think architecturally, of course, not everything will be in the bot, but I see this core process of receiving information from GitHub should only be, at least from my point of view, preferably one process, one source that has access to that, and preferably the other way to Jenkins or even the release Jenkins. So from that perspective, I think it's unavoidable to have that data collection at the bot, but then the display of it could be some other stuff, some otherwhere. Like I haven't really spent too much time thinking about that end, but I think that'll resolve itself once we get there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Because the Jenkins API is somewhat hard to work with, so if we can abstract that and not do it more than once, that's definitely a win.
So the bot is now deployed in the Node.js infrastructure. What permissions, elevated permissions, does it have so far? Ultimately, I'm looking for the green light to start moving forward on the scripts that I was dreaming of doing.
So far, it's only GitHub access. It doesn't need any elevated stuff from Jenkins, seeing how it's using the public API from Jenkins. So whatever light you're waiting for, I think you have it. We need to figure out the access towards GitHub, though. And I haven't really looked at that, so Philip would probably be the go-to guy in terms of what we have and what we're going to have. And yeah, so...
I think, if I remember correctly, the bot has regular push. I can actually just check because it's on the bots team. Has regular push access to whatever repositories it needs to. I think William's partially thinking of admin permissions because of inviting people.
Yes.
And that's still the thing that I think we should use something separate for, because admin permissions are a little bit not very safe right now with GitHub, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, it just has regular write access to whatever team, whatever repositories are under this bots team on the Node.js org. I'm not sure if anyone here can actually see that page or not.
No, I can't.
Okay, so it has write access to Citgem, to the moderation repo, to Node.js/node, to the archive, to the website, and to readable stream currently.
Does it need write permissions though?
I believe you need write permissions to set statuses.
Set status.
That is my understanding.
Okay. Because it's a user, right?
Or maybe it wasn't statuses. Maybe it was comments at that point in time. No, that doesn't make sense.
No.
It was something like that. Unless statuses are set by a different API key. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember now.
Because from my personal experience, when I create API tokens for my user, I can set there's a separate scope for status actually, but it might inherit from having write permissions.
I think it inherits from having write permissions because there's not a different level. Like the levels that you can give a user are read, write, or admin.
Yeah, that's true. But
yeah. Well, let's perhaps create an issue about that specific access and try and sort it out as quick as possible then. But I mean, couldn't we do different access tokens for the bot user and then use different tokens for different instances or whatever way we just want to separate the deployments?
Yeah, but if you have one bot, there's still going to be like access to that token in one way or other, right? Unless we always have manual deployment of the bot, then it might not matter because someone can always audit it.
Yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, that's. I guess the question is rather like the merging strategy to GitHub then as well. I mean, we'd probably have to move to a bit more formal process.
And be authorized to do it, right? I think that the TSCs would have a want to know that it's they have some insight into what's happening in these things. And so I also wanted to clarify that like adding and removing members to the GitHub org is one of the elevated permissions, but I'm also looking for many Google services permissions. So YouTube is one of them, but also Google Docs and the calendar. I'm not sure if the event pages and things like that is anything separate.
I think all those are under other people's user accounts except for YouTube. I might be wrong.
Okay.
I think the calendar was from, at least the original calendar was like a node source one. I don't know
there was
who.
an IOJS one at one point.
Yeah, I don't know who actually has like ownership of the docs pages. Usually, I think that must be just like the users, whoever creates them.
Yeah. Well, so the bot can create the meeting notes and things like that, and that'd be fine.
Yeah, we could just do like what we usually do in, at least for what I do in the build group. I just create a document and make it publicly editable through like through a shared link. I mean, the bot should be able to do that without any access to any organization. And then what it could do is just close the edit, once the issue lands or something like that.
Someone mentioned to me, I think it might have been like Michael Dawson or someone, that had looked into for something else, making like automating document creation, and I think they said that the APIs to do that were either not really existent or very difficult to use. So that's just like a note there.
Yeah, he has a module that he created to assist with that. There's something about permissions or there's something strange, but yeah, he did a lot of work on that.
Cool. I don't think there would be any problem with YouTube or the Google permissions otherwise. I don't know, we're not super strict about that like we are with GitHub. There's not really nearly as much, potential catastrophe to be done there. So I don't think that'll be an issue.
So
I do suppose that we may need TSC sign off for access to those. I'm not exactly sure, honestly. I don't think anyone's exactly sure. Anyways, go on.
No, I think we should ask for it. Like, let's try and let's talk about this. Let's move it to an issue. Let's try to make something more formal. How, like, outline a document on how we suggest that you apply for different access levels at GitHub and like put it in front of the TSC. And instead of just having to push it to them and say, hey, figure it out, like we could try and figure it out for them and pass it that way, and perhaps save some time by doing so.
Sounds good. So, do we have a conclusion about the goals or these? Should we move that to an issue on GitHub?
I think multiple. Let's try and funnel out what we want to achieve and move closer to that. And I guess like access will be a problem, but at the same time, we are moving into being a more formal group, and our goals and achievements is to get that access. So I don't think that should stop us, so to speak.
No. Maybe there can be like a user land bot with lower level permissions, and then one with a higher level permission kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just we need to figure out the workflow on that. On both, I mean, it's the same thing, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's move that to a separate issue on GitHub.
So this separate bot is I don't know, Jeremiah and I have spoke about this going back quite a few months now. It is that workflow and getting around that, and I have a feeling. Well, what I've noticed is that there aren't a lot of suggestions on how to pull that off. So I guess I'll just throw it out there. I fear that this will kind of just sit as in an unknown because we don't really have a good plan, and there aren't proposals coming forward. I'm not really in a position to like understand the deployments and stuff like that, like the build group would. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there because this is a very long road for myself to try and get this out there with the elevator permission so I can do these scripts. So I would like to just somehow get this to keep moving forward and not have it sit.
I think the best thing to do then is that we go ahead with, okay, we'll propose a second bot here, and then we probably don't even need to make it, but we can say we'd like a separate bot that has elevated permissions. We can go to the TSC, ask for admin access for something like that and see what they feel about that. And that's probably the best way forward on that part. I'm not sure on the build end. Depends if that bot would overlap on release permissions, if we would just have one or multiple.
Well, from a build perspective, there shouldn't be any problem automating this. So if we can automate one bot, we should be able to automate n number of bots.
Yeah, and as for access, we have like 3 levels of access in the build group. We have like a test, which everyone in the build group and a few others have access to, and then we have a release and an infrastructure. And the infrastructure access level is pretty much it's the heart of access. So having that, you have access to everything. So what I'm saying is that we can kind of regulate access levels that limits the amount of people that have access to the machine, meaning the token. So you know, we can harden it by doing that.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing will come in with where do we submit scripts that are elevated access versus non-elevated access, and keeping them separate. With 2 bots running, we'll have multiple webhooks going to sending out events, and we certainly don't want to have a scenario where 2 things are responding to events and double labeling or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a thing that's completely solvable by just thinking about our architecture for a moment. So I think, you know, if someone just wants to take the lead and make like a plugin based architecture where you know, each bot can say, hey, I want to run these 5 scripts or these 2, and this access is required to make this happen. You know, we could try and avoid that. And then from a GitHub point of view, if we use the webhook stuff, or if we do some other mechanism to get that information, I guess that, you know, we'll just take that bull by the horns when we meet it. But I think it's completely doable. It's just that someone needs to put the hours in and make it happen from an architectural point of view.
Yeah, I think we can. Should we move on to the last?
Okay. I'm also gonna make. I'll make an issue for having some sort of a separated bot that has admin permissions for inviting people or anything else, and then tag it with TSC agenda, and we'll bring it up to the TSC.
Awesome.
Because the question here is access to that token outside. That's the main issue.
Outside of what?
Well, access to the token.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
I mean, it not just like physical or quote unquote physical, like admin access to the token. It's also okay, you have a bot, and how many people can push to that bot that could affect that token.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, a combination of transparency with how we deploy, but also, you know, us as a group showing that we are a group and that we can, you know, treat this formally will, you know, needs to happen for the TSC to take it more seriously. I think we're a pretty diverse crowd in terms of, if we want to call this plus Philip the core, and we're representing, you know, both TSC and website and build, and so like I feel like we're the right crew. We just need to land, I think, with documentation and you know, guidelines and what we want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that reminds me of something else. I just wanted to say about what was important for me doing this bot, was that anybody should be able to contribute. So if you look at the README, I went through some hoops to create a server sent event relay, and that was because it's pretty tricky to deal with hooks and try and run your scripts. Philip at first was deploying his over and over and over to do that, and so it's just kind of another one of those, I don't know, baseline rules that I would like to try and keep everybody's mind on, is that anybody out there without, even if they're not even part of the GitHub org, should be able to test and submit bug fixes and things like that. And Jeremiah, I guess, are we keeping test.org please ignore? Is that going to be just the de facto playground for?
I mean, there's no reason it couldn't be like a de facto playground. I mean, I had that GitHub org ages ago for other test things. I mean, there's nothing really to break on it. You can just go wild on it pretty much. So, I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't use just one centralized one.
Yeah, so for anyone here that didn't follow that, at the beginning when we were doing this, Jeremiah set up or started using this org because we need to do issue comments and things, which were quite noisy. We certainly wouldn't want to do that under the GitHub org. And so if you use that, if you go there, don't watch any of the repos, because it gets pretty noisy.
Yeah.
One thing about contributing, like if we have a separated bot, I think we can have the same rules for contribute. Well, there's either one or two things you can do. Either I think, now this might change when we talk to the TSC. This is just sort of my thoughts. So either I think we can have automated deployment on it, but then we would need to restrict who can push to it, or we would have anyone can push to this thing sort of, but like it requires someone to then go manually and deploy it just so they can review stuff. So it's not automatic.
Isn't there that concept of protected branches in GitHub as well? So we could have like a,
The thing is, it's not protected branches that we're worried about. Like with admin rights, you're worried about deleting repos and or the org.
Yeah. Yeah, what I mean is, like at the end of the day, what we're concerned about is, what code is affected on the bot that is running with admin rights. So all I'm saying is that, like, what we want to do is kind of funnel who gets to merge to that, like who gets to deploy the code in a way. So I'm just saying, like, there might be, we don't want to create a too slow merge effort to master, but at the same time we don't want everyone to merge to it. So I'm just trying to think about what options we have in terms of workflow. I would prefer, having multiple sign-offs, but that doesn't really stop anyone from just merging at will. So I initially perhaps we're a bit too quick with the auto deployment, and let's back out. Let's do weekly deployments or something.
But what would have been cool is to have some kind of CI that checks for thumbs up or LGTM and continues having a failed status until that level is reached, and then for enforcing that check needs to pass.
So I don't think this is an issue for like the GitHub bot that we have right now, or like the majority of bot tasks in general.
No, but as soon as you get elevated permissions, then all of the contributions need to be scrutinized like that.
Correct. So, I mean, this is the entire idea I've been having behind this, though, is that it wouldn't be the same thing. You'd have this other thing that's like, okay, this just does admin rights stuff, nothing else. And everyone else just does, if you need anything else that doesn't need admin rights, which is probably most things, you just do it in this other bot that funnels everything else through it.
So instead of having a second bot, what I kind of thought about a while back was if there was another service that ran that was a simple proxy to take on just adding people to the org, and only that proxy would have elevated permission. Because all of this discussion is around a deficiency in GitHub, that you're either like God or like a normal person, right? And so if we created a script that ran somewhere and its only role was like you give it a username and it adds it to the org, and maybe to a team, and that's the end of it, because we're not too worried about removing people from the org, at least at this phase. But then additionally, I think anything that happens like that should also have some logging that, like logging that goes out, maybe notifications that go out like, hey, I just added this person to the org,
Yeah, I think, at the same time, we will run into the same problem every time the bot gets some kind of elevated access at some point. Even now, if someone did a pull request for managing labels and it was sloppily reviewed or whatever, and we merged it in auto deploys, and boom, we have 5,000 new labels. I feel like there's this common problem for all its tasks, seeing how it can be very destructive or positively additive, whatever way you want to call it. So I think thinking about this problem a bit harder and perhaps not universally solve it. I fundamentally agree with you in terms of admin access to GitHub is special, and I would treat like access to the CI release as special as well. But just there has to be. I would like it if there were other ways than just splitting up the repos.
I will note one thing is that I call it like a separate bot. The thing that we have right now is not like super body. It does a lot of funneling. We just call it a bot. Yeah. So really, it can be a script. It'll have to have a separate GitHub user though, for access token purposes. So it's kind of a bot. Call it whatever you like.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna come to a conclusion with this right now, but I think we have a few parallel things going on here. We're gonna formalize our group. We're gonna raise awareness about what we want to achieve with the TSC. We're gonna start planning what features we want. So I don't know how much longer, how much more we can achieve right now.
Well, it's the last topic about members before we finish the meeting.
Yeah, we're closing in on an hour. I have to leave in like 10, so
yep.
We don't have to talk about the members for 10 minutes. I just wanted to, brainstorm if you guys felt like someone else should be included in the group or pinged, or yeah.
Well, I don't have any names at the top of my head, but it should be pretty open, pretty inclusive. If anyone wants to contribute, they should be encouraged, as mentioned by William.
I'd also like to, if we have the time, try and get these issues down and perhaps feedback on them prior to Node Interactive. And that way, William can probably network pretty well over there, and I don't know how many people will be coming from our group, or if it's just you, William, but it'd be pretty cool to these are the things we're planning, and inspire people and see who kind of raises their hand.
Yeah, like I say, I'm hoping to drum up more interest from more people, because I'm not sure that so many people know what we're doing and trying to accomplish. But also, I think there'll be a lot of working group members and just Node Foundation people there, and so I want to get the word in the bug in their ear about what we're trying to pull off.
Definitely. Well,
Okay.
unless there's anything else we need to discuss, then I think we maybe should conclude this meeting.
Yeah, I'm just wanted to add that it's great that we get this going.
Yeah.
You know, I have seen the progress ramp up over the last few months, and it's awesome that we try and make it more collaborative. So, yay from me.
Definitely.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. Should we set a date, or let's just run this on GitHub for a bit, try to get things down, land the TSC papers and stuff, and then we can perhaps reconvene after, like within a month or so. And if we get accepted as a group, we can start doing our regular meetings and stand-ups and try to push progress.
Cool.
All right, thanks everyone.
All right, that concludes the first meeting of the bot group. Sorry.
Cool. Thanks, and to those, let me just check if there was any questions from YouTube. No, I can't find anything. Okay, cool. Well, to all of you that watched, we had 2 viewers at peak, I think. Nice to have you around. And yeah, I'll see you guys.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.